Coming at you with the final kind of video on building the greenhouse. Remember, the greenhouse was taken out by a tornado. It was a good little greenhouse we had, but it was aluminum structure with just the plastic. This is actually my wiring diagram, believe it or not, for it. I know it's kind of crude, folks, but you're welcome to stop the video and look at it. Maybe it'll make sense to you. But I laid everything out here in the kitchen beforehand electrically, so I could figure out, the fan speed control switch here and the foam that goes with it and the different parts. I laid out the temperature switch that I want to use, and put that ahead of the fan speed control, and then kind of figured out where the activator goes for the shutter for the incoming fresh air into the building. It does come with a wiring diagram when you buy one of these kits. Where the bottom picture here, where the power comes in, goes to the thermostat first, and then over to the relay for the fan speed, and then to the fan. And in between there, it breaks down to the activator doors. It makes sense, but it's not as easy to wire up as you think. I chose to pre-wire all this, so I measured how far and how much wire I needed in the greenhouse, and I did it all in my shop so that I could work at night and get it done, and then test run everything, including the activator switch and so forth. Now, you could certainly do this right on site in your greenhouse, but for me, the day I get to put the polycarb on, it's supposed to rain, which it eventually does here, you'll see, and it's pretty hot out. It's going to be pushing in the 80s with a high humidity and storms, and I really just didn't want to be sweating away in that greenhouse, with no ventilation system trying to put this up. I figured, well, if I wire it up first, I could go in there and screw it all up and then be up and running faster and be able to think with ventilation. As far as assembling it, I chose to follow the code of any of our farm buildings, which is, UF wire, waterproof TACmate or Carlson boxes, and underground connectors. I found these things to be really nice because the wasps and the little June bugs and the little beetles and stuff, Asian beetles and stuff, can't get in these boxes. So even though it's all done for code, typically in a barn, I found the stuff to be really nice just for bug's sake and even fire hazards. So I'm wiring up the same way I've done all my other situations. The lights are going to be LED lights. The fan and the heat lamps, they're all running at a 15 amp circuit. The heater will be a 240 that I had in there before, and it should be plenty of power for everything. So I've got two sets of 15 amps going into the place, and then a 240. And here I'm just wiring up the kind of octopus for the temperature gauges and switches that'll run the heat lamps. And then I've got the lights there off to the side there on the floor. And really what I'm doing here is nothing, real extravagant, folks. I'm just, putting it together and kind of test running it on my shop floor. I'm playing with the temperatures, making sure they're clicking and turning on. I'm playing with the switches that are before them to make sure it kills things properly. I've technically got 3 switches here. The last switch is a constant switch, which has no thermostat on it, and the switch is actually under the cover. It also has an outlet, which is a constant power outlet in case we need to plug one thing in here and there. But really, folks, you don't have to go through all this. You can wire it on site if you don't mind dealing with the temperature in the greenhouse. As far as testing it, because I ran everything to outlet boxes so that I can just plug in the heat lamps, plug in the fan, and so forth, all I had to do was grab my LED shop light, have my daughter plug it in, and I could test things. I found that to be quite helpful in this process. The switches are kind of my on and off for the whole system, and then after that is the Petco thermometers, and I have them set so that you can set the temp. When it reaches the temp, it shuts off. The nice thing about those thermometers, you can do it just the opposite if you wanted to. It's just a matter of which wire you connect to. I bought most of these supplies at Menards. I think I bought the temperature switches for the fans at Fleet Farm. I think wiring wise, I spent about $250 on wiring. Heat lamps, I spent about $150 because my wife really does like the Premier One heat lamps. And on the greenhouse itself now that I'm actually getting it done, I can tell you that the total build is just around, I'm going to guess around $3,500. I got about 3 into the structure with Ron, who helped me build it and bring it out to my place as far as the shell. And then I've got some miscellaneous lumber, a couple cans of paint. And what you're actually looking at here is me installing a garage floor into it. This is one of these great big garage mats, 8 feet by 17 feet, really hard vinyl that you can drive cars on. I think you're supposed to glue these things down in your garage. I'm not gluing it down, folks. I use that watertight, 10 psi waterproof oil-based paint, and we whitewashed this building. It's what we use in our chicken coops. It's a fantastic paint. Really holds up well to moisture. But then just to kind of seal everything up and make it so that we don't have a lot of unsweepable areas between those great big 2x10s on the floor, I lay this out across it and it gives me a solid floor. So here it is all whitewashed, and I'm in there without the polycarb on so I can still get a lot of airflow. And before the storms hit that day, laying this floor. Once I get this floor in, I just leave it like this. Yeah, it's got a few wrinkles, but it'll bake itself down quite well to the wood structure below. And then it's time to put the polycarb up, which is 5 panels, and I'm screwing them into manufacturer specs, which is a lot at the bottom, a lot at the top, and then every other ridge. We did put down a bottom edge so that I can stop mice from coming in. And this bottom edge of polycarb, I'm also putting a foam strip in just to insulate it. At the top, I'm going to put a foam strip in, and then as you'll see, I'll put the cap on it to keep the rain and stuff out from the top. Believe it or not, it's just hours before a storm hits, so we literally get this up, and then we get to see how waterproof we are, and it turned out to be great. Here I've got a couple panels up, and it's just like putting steel on a building. That first panel, the vertical, has to be plumb. If it's not, good luck. To work your way across, you really do need to set that first panel. So again, we're screwing this in and just working our way along. I put that blue tape down at the bottom so I didn't scratch it too bad when I'm setting these polycarb panels on it. Here it is all up. It's got the cap there at the top. I've got the 2 side pieces of steel on now. It looks really nice. It's nice and sturdy, and hopefully can take a lot more storm than what the previous building did. I am going to insure this building, folks. I've already talked to State Farm. I should be able to put a value on it somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000, and that's because of the motors and everything we got into it. But like I said, I'm a little over 35 into this. Here I'm just wiring things up. We had, remember, the power in here from last time, so it's a matter of just plugging into the outlets and running the UF wire, and then getting into the thermostat and getting into the fan switch as far as the boxes to get them screwed to the wall, and they're up and running. Lights, the same thing. Just screw up the 2 boxes, get it over to the switch on the wall, because there's a switch on the wall, and hardwire it in and flip a switch, and the 2 LEDs turn on, which is really nice. As you can see, it's raining outside. We're getting a nice water test on it. We're nice and dry. And it's working really good. So I've got a switch there for the lights, and then I've got the plug-in which goes over to the thermostat and stuff that runs the fan and the activator switch and stuff for the ventilation. And then the bottom black outlet there was the heater, and then the other one is the incoming power for the heat lamps. So this is kind of my heat lamp octopus area here. Again, 2 switches, and the third switch is under that one cover there with an outlet, and then the 2 Pecco thermostats there, and then up on the ceiling I put in outlet boxes so that I could just drop down into them, and then I put eye hooks to hold the heaters up. I really do like the Premier One heaters. I like that they've got that plastic, if you want to call it, cage at the bottom, so that if the bulb does shatter, which it has happened to us, and a bulb lets go of its metal base and falls down, and they're really hot, they don't land on your stuff and burn your plants or melt your trays, or worst case, light up your building. The thermometer switch went in well, so did the fan. Tacking it all up, because it's UF wire, went really pretty smooth. The activator switch works fantastic. I'm not probably going to mess much with the fan speed control. I'll just get it set and leave it. I'm really pleased with how it's working. The activator works really nice. Now, the previous greenhouse, I had a piston that was activated by heat. I did not care for that as much, folks, because in Minnesota you have to take those out in the winter or they explode. They freeze and they crack. So I'm really glad that I don't have that anymore. The fan is working great. I will shut it off here so you can actually see the fan blades. Pretty good sized fan. I believe it's, I think this one was 16 inches. And again, for a building that's 15 by 8 and inside probably 7.5 by 14, it's excellent. You see the lights up there and the outlet boxes for, again, the heat lamps. We really only use the heat lamps when my bride has got, the dirt before the seats come up and she needs to keep it at 80 degrees, especially when February can be as cold as -20 or -30. Here I am, just hooking up those heat lamps because we just leave them hang. I do use chain, and I hang them from the lamp. I don't hang from the cord. I find that to just be way too dangerous. And then the cords last longer, the lights last longer. Everything just holds up better. Typically, she starts them on the top. She gets the dirt nice and warm. We'll keep the room, say, 70. And with the heat lamps, she'll keep the dirt in the 80s. And then as the plant comes up, it gets a couple inches tall. She then moves them to the bottom trays and just lets the sun do it from there until they become, 8 to 12 inches tall and they tend to the garden. Typically, she's starting probably anywhere between February and March with a lot of the plants, but there are a few things that got to start up in January. And again, in Minnesota cold, we've just found that, a true greenhouse just doesn't hold enough heat easily enough for us. So again, using a greenhouse with just a southern exposure and a well-insulated building, we think is going to work a lot better for us. Obviously, I'll keep you posted as to how it does. And this building being made of steel weighs a lot more. And other than the one face, which is poly, should be able to take, the winds and stuff better. It isn't going to take an F5 tornado, but hopefully this building could survive, maybe even a F0. If not, maybe an F1. We'll see. But everything's wired up. It's looking real good. The fan's running. The heat lamps are in place. I can go over here by the switch and turn them on and test them here in a minute. I've got the big heater up. I've got it plugged into the 240 there down at the bottom, which is really nice. And remember, this building really is offset by the solar system. I mean, this thing, I've got my great big solar panels there to the south field, and that pretty much can supply everything this building can even give out. There I go. I switch them on. See that one turned on? I'll switch the other one. The N2 will go on. And there's another switch for the front too. This is what I needed, folks. A nice solid greenhouse for my wife to get going with. This is going to be really nice. Come the depths of winter here upcoming, it should hold up and work well. We'll keep you posted. Obviously, it's clean right now. It'll probably never look this clean again, but it's what it is. I plan on getting this building fully insured now. I'm going to be sending some pictures off to the farm and ranch policy at State Farm. I'd recommend that, folks. These buildings are worth it. Put your insurance into them. You never know when something like a tornado is going to wreck one for you. So it's well worth it. I hope you've enjoyed our videos on this. This is the fourth one of this series. It took us 4 videos to get this up. Got a shout out to Ron at Woods Fabrication who helped us build the shell. It's a good shell. I appreciate all his effort and work, and it really turned out nice. I appreciate you folks watching and liking and following our channel. Thank you.